I stumbled drunk into the Eastern Palace bedchamber, ruined the crown prince's betrothal, and made him the laughingstock of the entire capital. In retaliation, he severed the tendons in my limbs, blinded my eyes, and imprisoned me in a dark chamber, torturing me day and night. But I was reborn. This time, fighting off the liquor's grip, I threw myself into another's embrace. Who was this brute? He looked rather fresh-faced. I saw his face clearly. Sieronsa, the young general who would die on the battlefield a month later. I was reborn. Leaning against the rockery, I could see the full moon above, casting its cold, pure light. Ever since Zhao Jingqian gouged out my eyes, I hadn't seen the moon in ages. In that moment, I dared not even breathe. I feared this was merely another illusion. The crown prince was drunk, lying in the Mingda hall. My body stiffened. That was the voice of Huai Bai, Zhao Jingqian's personal maid. Back then, at the banquet in the Eastern Palace, I had drunk myself into a stupor, my head pounding, hearing Huai Bai's words. I thought to avoid the crown prince and sneak off to a side hall to rest. Unexpectedly, Zhao Jingqian, who had been drugged with poisoned wine, was feigning sleep there. The western side hall became the beginning of my nightmare. That night, the woman's wails echoing from the side hall were piercing and terrifying, shattering the Eastern Palace's silent night. I begged desperately, wept until my tears ran dry, my very bones trembling, pleading for him to spare me. At that moment, Zhao Jingqian resembled a rabid beast. The next day, Zhao Jingqian finally sobered up. But it was too late. This scandalous affair swiftly spread throughout the palace. His Majesty was furious. To appease his father, an imperial edict was issued. I, a lowly concubine's daughter, became Zhao Jingqian's secondary consort, and the royal family's fig leaf. Later, Zhao Jingqian was rejected by his beloved. Enraged, he stormed into my chambers with a sword. Wan Chuyi, you ruined me. Now the entire capital mocks me. Are you satisfied? I defiantly retorted. Your Highness, it is I who have been ruined. Zhao Jingqian was enraged by my words. He raised his hand, the sword's edge aimed at my eyes. If not for your scheming and betrayal, how could you stand before me now? Don't dare look at me with those filthy eyes. One more time, and I'll gouge them out myself. I froze. So this was why he hated me so deeply. Later, for his beloved Gu Qingluo, Zhao Jingqian personally took action, ripping out my eyes with his bare hands. Before the pain knocked me unconscious, I could no longer tell if the liquid streaming down my face was blood or tears. All I kept asking Zhao Jingqian was, what had I done wrong? Gu Qingluo approached me, leaning close to whisper in my ear. Wan Chuyi, your greatest mistake was appearing in the Eastern Palace that night. Snapping back to reality, I realized I was already drenched in cold sweat. Gu Qingluo was right. Had I not appeared in the Eastern Palace that night, none of the subsequent nightmares would have followed. I forced myself to steady my thoughts. Chuyi, don't be afraid. It's a fresh start now. If I can evade Zhao Jingqian and flee this place quickly, everything can still be salvaged. Grasping the rockery for support, I rose to my feet, fighting off dizziness as I made my way outward. But after only a few steps, I spotted Zhao Jingqian, clad in purple robes, slowly approaching. How could he be here? At this hour? Shouldn't he be sobering up in the side hall? Startled, I quickly hid in the grass beside the lotus pond. Zhao Jingqian seemed to hear a sound. Stopping unsteadily, he appeared to be listening intently. I curled myself into a tight ball, terrified of being discovered. Zhao Jingqian suddenly shifted his feet. As if sensing something, he staggered drunkenly toward my hiding spot. Oh no! He mustn't find me. I dared not look, covering my eyes tightly. After a while, the footsteps seemed to vanish, and I slowly removed my hands. Zhao Jingqian's face suddenly appeared right before me. He crouched down, matching my posture, tilting his head to look at me. His eyes were filled with malicious teasing. "Ruan-Chui? Did you think hiding here would keep me from finding you?" His voice sounded like it came from hell, making my heart freeze. "Ah!" I screamed. At the same moment, I lashed out with the embroidered shoe I'd been clutching, slapping it hard across Zhao Jingqian's face. He crouched where he was, looking like a stunned toad. I seized the chance and took off running. "Ruan-Chui, you dare strike me with a shoe?" His furious shout soon echoed from behind. I ran frantically along the lotus pond. In my previous life, that night in the Eastern Palace was the first time Zhao Jingqian had ever seen me. Yet just now, he had called out my name without hesitation. Had Zhao Jingqian also been reborn? I dared not dwell on it further. The footsteps behind me seemed to grow closer and closer. After rounding a corner, a figure clad in black robes suddenly appeared in my vision. I collided with them unexpectedly. Ouch! The person delivered a vicious headbutt to me. Only upon recognizing my face did they show a hint of surprise. Where did this handsome brute come from? Quite a pretty face. Actually. Thankfully, I was built sturdy and could take a hit. No time to waste. Zhao Jingqian was closing in. I suddenly wrapped my arms around the man before me and gritted out, "My apologies, sir." The words barely left my mouth when I yanked him with me, sliding sideways into the lotus pond beside us. Moonlight fell upon his face, revealing his stunned expression. "Xie?" It was him. I froze for a moment. "Hey, what are you?" Before he could finish, I pulled him down into the lotus pond with me. The memory of that face finally surfaced in my mind. He was that young General Xia, who had been in theft as a marquis after a single battle. Every time his army returned victorious, he'd ride that white horse through the capital streets with great pomp. A youth clad in iron armor, strikingly handsome, his gaze bold and fiery, radiating an unyielding, ever-forward spirit. But, if my memory serves, a month later, Xie would die on the battlefield, leaving behind not even a whole body. The only thing brought back was a severed hand. Cause of death, unknown. Pity the entire Xie family. Loyal and valiant, all clad in mourning robes. Lady Xie's hair turned white overnight. Seems Xie had it pretty rough too. He wasn't much better off than me, though my heart ached. I dragged him down with me to save my own skin. No matter what, I absolutely refused to return as Zhao Jingqian's captive slave. I just want to live. Forgive me, Xie. I silently vowed. This time, I dragged you down with me. I'll serve you as ox or horse to repay you. Plop. The icy river water swallowed us whole. Water surged into my nostrils. I struggled a few times, but my body felt heavy, refusing to float. Just as I thought I might sink forever, Xie hand suddenly reached out from the water. He grabbed my waist, lifting me up with all his strength until he pulled me ashore. Shivering, I hugged my soaking wet body, seeing the palace attendants who had rushed to our rescue upon hearing the commotion, along with a group of Xie family members. I finally managed a faint smile. I had bet correctly. A concubine's daughter from the Ruan family was worthless, but young General Xie's life held far greater value. A cloak suddenly appeared on my shoulder. It was Xie. He took the one a servant handed him and gave it directly to me. I stared blankly, feeling the thick cloak draped over me. Xie face flushed slightly. Earlier in the water, I overstepped. But I was trying to save you. You're not angry, are you? He wasn't angry with me. Instead, He was the first to show concern? I froze. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to me like this. My dignity had been ground into dust. My bones crushed beneath their feet. I'd been living like a dog. For far too long. A warmth spread through my heart. But my eyes stung with tears. I fought hard not to let them fall. A gaze suddenly fixed on me. I instinctively looked in that direction. Zhao Jingqian stood outside the crowd. His expression dark and terrifying. He was staring at me intently. Even if Zhao Jingqian glared through me, it wouldn't matter. Every time he looked at me with that venomous gaze, it was the precursor to his explosive rage. My body trembled instinctively. Yet for the first time, I summoned my courage, straightened my back, and met Zhao Jingqian's gaze head-on. Seemingly caught off guard, he paused slightly. Then his expression darkened further. He swept his sleeve and vanished into the crowd. I exhaled in relief, though soaked through and chilled by the night breeze. My heart felt an unprecedented ease at that moment. The night breeze caressed my face gently. Closing my eyes, I greedily savored it, nearly weeping. How could I have almost forgotten? No cries. No pain. The night before marrying into the Eastern Palace should have been peaceful like this, without fear or alarm. Don't cry. Xie suddenly panicked. I was crying. I lowered my head, my hands clenching the cloak sash so tightly I didn't even notice my nails digging into my palms. Xie ears were still flushed, his face full of regret. Every mistake, every fault, if I made you cry. It's all my fault. If you hate me for my rash actions in the water, just yell at me. I've got thick skin, it won't hurt. The usually spirited young general seemed utterly terrified by my tears. Fumbling awkwardly. Lieutenant Su. Why is she crying even harder? Was I too harsh? Xie grew flustered, whispering to a bearded man beside him for advice. The burly man scratched his head, pondering for a long moment. This. Every time I make my wife cry, having her beat me up fixes everything. Xie suddenly understood. Fearing he might lean in for me to strike him, I hastily wiped my tears. Rising, I pressed both hands to my forehead, knelt on the ground, and bowed deeply before him. This humble maiden has sinned. Please, General, punish me. Before dragging Xie into the lotus pond with me, I had thought it through clearly. If I pulled him under, Zhao Jingqian would surely dare not make a rash move. Young General Xie would be an excellent talisman. The worst outcome I faced for this was having Xie slit my throat with a sword, my blood splattering the lotus pond. Such an end was still better than rotting away in the Eastern Palace. I admit I was a scheming villain, approaching him with ulterior motives from the start. Yet Xie open-heartedness made me feel ashamed of my own baseness. Precisely because of this, hearing his words, my heart was both anxious and filled with remorse. If your excellency does not disdain me, this humble maiden would beg to serve as your slave or maid. Seeing my tears cease, Xie exhaled in relief. He offered me a hand to rise, then laughed heartily. A maiden of the Ruan family serving as a maid to a lowly man like me? That would be too much of a hardship. He actually recognized me? Before I could speak, Xie chuckled softly. Besides, the riverbank was slippery tonight. I happened to pass by and saw you lose your footing and fall into the water. I jumped in to save you myself. Since it was my own choice, how could there be any disdain? At that moment, the youth's carefree, spirited eyes shone brighter than the moonlight itself. Xie knew full well I'd done it on purpose. Yet he didn't call me out. He gave me all the grace I needed. And in front of all these people, he took full responsibility upon himself. I stood frozen, speechless. Xie continued. You were walking so hurriedly earlier, I imagine you were afraid to walk alone at night. This time, take your time. I'll carry the lantern and walk you home. So he had seen me running frantically. And he had seen right through me. He seemed to know I was afraid. Of course. Sierronsa didn't know what his helping hand meant. But now, living this life anew, standing at the edge of fate's conclusion, I understood deeply. It was precisely his appearance tonight that meant someone was there to catch me. I was about to kneel in gratitude again, but Sierronsa grabbed my arm. No need for kneeling before me. It was nothing. Don't dwell on it. All the way back, whether because of Sierronsa and Deputy Officer Su, I didn't even catch a glimpse of Zhao Jingqian. With that, my last lingering worry vanished. Tonight was destined to be peaceful. This is where I must leave you. Second Miss Ruan. Standing at the entrance of the flower hall, Sierronsa bid me farewell. He curved his lips, his gaze intense. I had to do something. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind. This seemed to be the only way I could repay Sierronsa. Thank you for everything today. But after this parting, will young General Xie return to Huanan City? I asked casually, feigning nonchalance. Huanan City was where Sierronsa had been stationed for years. A place flanked by rivers on two sides. He himself excelled at naval warfare, safeguarding the peace of the local populace. The people revered him as the Marquis of Rainbow Boat. Miss Ruan, you foresee things with uncanny accuracy, Sierronsa remarked with a smile. I continued my pretense. I can read palms. Before your departure, might I offer you a fortune reading for your safety? Would that be acceptable? I took the palace lantern from Deputy Officer Su's hand, then pulled up Sierronsa's sleeve with my other hand, holding his palm as if examining it. I pretended to study the lines. His hands bore calluses from years of martial training and several coarse scars. All these years, he must have endured much hardship alone in Huanan City. A man who gave his life for the people should not have met such an end. Thinking of his tragic demise in my previous life, I drifted into thought. I'd heard that after Sierronsa died in battle, only a severed hand remained. Is this that hand? To have one's hand chopped off while still conscious, it must have been excruciating. After all this time, have you seen anything? A clear voice suddenly sounded beside my ear. I composed myself and replied, This divination is difficult to interpret. Typically, such ambiguous omens hint at matters of life and death. Sierronsa must have understood my implication, right? I said, Your Excellency, a month from now, you will face a perilous obstacle. Exercise utmost caution. At best, it may cost you limbs, at worst, it could bring bloodshed. I didn't know the full story, so I couldn't offer more details. I only remembered being trapped in that dark room, where two young palace maids brought me food that day, their faces heavy with sorrow. They were discussing the young general who had fallen so suddenly. Everyone felt pity for young General Xia. Now, I could only do my utmost to warn Sierronsa. Would he believe me? I felt uneasy. Sierronsa took the palace lantern from my hand, raised an eyebrow, and smiled. Before every journey, grandmother has someone perform divination rituals, smoke incense, draw blood, putting me through hell. Yet not once have they been right. So I never believed in such things. Still, thank you for your kind warning. I shall be cautious. Otherwise, carrying such a heavy four-cornered lantern and straining your eyes to read my palm like this, wouldn't all your effort be wasted? His eyes sparkled with amusement, clearly dismissing my warning. I snapped back in irritation. Fine if you don't believe others. But my divinations are genuinely accurate. This man was stubborn to the core. All I could do was silently pray that Sierronsa would truly heed my words. Really that accurate? For some reason, Sierronsa seemed intrigued. He suddenly rolled up his sleeve, extended his other hand, and held it open before me once more. If it's so reliable, why not take a look at my marital prospects while you're at it? I never expected the young General Xia to pull this move. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and proceed. First, he built suspense, turning his palm over and over to examine it. Then, he spoke slowly and deliberately. Your marriage prospects are also quite favorable. Your wife will be a noble lady from a marquis household. It will be love at first sight. And upon meeting again, mutual affection will deepen. You are perfectly suited for each other. A truly harmonious match. I figured such flattering words couldn't possibly be wrong. Who doesn't enjoy hearing auspicious predictions? Sure enough, Xie Rongzi looked thoroughly pleased. But I never imagined the backlash would come so swiftly. Xie Rongzi never left. The next day, 2 memorials shook the court and the realm. One was submitted by the crown prince, Zhao Jingjian, earnestly petitioning to marry the eldest daughter of Minister Gu. His sincerity was deeply moving. The other was penned by my father. Father's memorial was written with blood-stained words. Its gist: young General Xia had leaped into the 2 waters to rescue me before all eyes. When he pulled me out, he still clutched me tightly in his arms. Though a noble deed, it had tarnished my virtue. If he did not take me as his wife, the Ruan family would truly have no face to show. I never imagined that I, a lowly concubine's daughter who rarely earned my father's favor, could prove so significant in such a moment. In my previous life, when Zhao Jingjian abused me for an entire night, it was also my father who rushed to submit a memorial, escalating the matter to the imperial court. Unexpectedly, his approach this time mirrored his actions before my rebirth. How could I have forgotten this very scenario? At this point, I could only secretly hope the emperor was discerning enough not to hastily arrange a marriage this time. Xie Rongzi saved me. What if he already had a betrothal, or someone else he cared for? To ruin his marriage prospects would be repaying kindness with betrayal. Wouldn't it? The more I thought about it, the more anxious I grew, unable to eat or sleep. Despite this, 3 days later, the emperor still swept his brush across the paper, bestowing a marriage decree upon Xie Rongzi and me. My previous engagement to Zhao Jingjian had been a taboo subject within these imperial walls. This time, however, tales of Xie Rongzi rescuing a damsel in distress spread throughout the capital. I, too, became his secondary consort. Staring at that bright yellow silk paper, I gave up struggling entirely. At this very moment, after receiving the imperial decree, Xie Rongzi must be cursing me inwardly. Right? What noble lady from a marquis household? What love at first sight? Xie Rongzi was clearly struck head-on by this disaster star that is me. With an overwhelming sense of unease, I married into the Xie family. Sitting in the bridal chamber, my heart pounded so loudly I could hear it. Well then, tell me, is the second young miss of the Ruan family truly beautiful? A sudden commotion erupted outside. Holding my breath, I slipped off the bed and stood by the door, straining to listen. This concubine-born daughter of the Ruan family rarely ventured out. I'd never seen her before, nor had she any reputation. Given her status, becoming your secondary wife is already a great concession. After listening for a while, though the words came in fits and starts, I grasped the gist. I suppose it must have been the guests. Even though they were drunk and their words were harsh, every sentence was true. So, Xie Rongzi must care about it too, right? A pang of bitterness welled up inside me. I turned to leave. Xie Rongzi, have you lost your mind? The man who had spoken earlier barked in a low voice, followed immediately by a dull thud. Had Xie Rongzi fallen? I felt a pang of worry and wanted to push open the door to check. But the veil hadn't been lifted yet, and the ceremony wasn't over. To rush out like this. It simply wasn't proper etiquette for a bride. If others saw me, they'd only laugh at him. My feet froze in place. At that moment, a familiar voice sounded outside the door. Sierronce's tone carried a hint of drunkenness. Yet it was utterly cold. I don't need others to tell me what kind of person she is. The room fell silent at his words. Once Ruan-Chui stepped through the door of my Xia household, she became my property. My property is better than anything in heaven or earth. If you find fault with her, you may gouge out your own eyes. Who gave you the nerve to gossip in my presence? The one who had spoken out of turn finally grasped the gravity of their slip, immediately begging for mercy. Sierronce seemed slightly impatient, uttering a soft shush. Then, lowering his voice, "Why are you kneeling here wailing like a child? Don't let her hear you. She's delicate, your appearance might frighten her. Now, get out." His words reached my ears like someone gently tapping my heart with a curved finger. My hand flew to my chest, where my heart pounded wildly. I quickly pretended not to have heard a thing, retreating to sit obediently on the wedding bed. Squeak. The door creaked open. Sierronce's footsteps drew nearer. "Been waiting a long time, haven't you?" His tone softened considerably, a stark contrast to the icy young general who'd been in the courtyard moments before. As if nothing had ever happened, Sierronce picked up the jade rui and hastily lifted my veil. "General, this is improper." Before me. His cheeks were flushed, his gaze intense. The eyes he fixed on me were as clear and bright as if they'd been soaked in spring water. This man was truly drunk. At a time like this, I doubt he'd listen to anything I said. Seeing a hint of timidity in my expression, he finally began to sober up. He turned and sat some distance away, his gaze still intense. "I've just come in from outside and feel the chill. I'll keep my distance for now." Now, the bridal chamber was warm and cozy, the wedding candles burning bright. I could feel Sierronce's eyes fixed on my profile. Suddenly, he spoke. "When I saw you that day, dressed in plain white, I thought you were a goddess stepping out of the pool. Today, these vibrant colors suit you beautifully too. Truly, nothing in heaven or earth compares to the beauty of my bride." A candle flame crackled and burst near the window, startling me. Only then did I realize how tense I'd been since Sierronce entered. Sierronce chuckled softly and slid closer to me. My spine instantly stiffened, and cold sweat broke out on my back. Now that the formalities were complete, the remaining steps were inevitable. The thought of the bridal chamber, of what would happen after the candles were blown out. A chill crept up my spine, sending goosebumps across my skin. To me, those things had never been the pleasures of the bridal chamber, they were torment. Pure agony. Beneath the wide sleeves of my wedding gown, I struggled to suppress my trembling. Yet the man before me was my benefactor, and also my husband. Gazing at the drunken Sierronce, I desperately tried to convince myself. The wedding candles were extinguished, plunging the room back into darkness. Those rough palms brushed against my buttoned collar, and Sierronce's kiss landed. I closed my eyes. That night, too, a kiss heavy with the scent of alcohol had brutally bitten my lips. Silk fragments littered the floor, and I lay like a shattered flower. It seemed not only that night, in the dead of night, when my hands and feet were bound. In the dark chamber, Zhao Jingqian loved grabbing my hair, forcing me to lift my face. Ruan-Chui, I suddenly realized, I'm not losing out. Though your status is lowly, this face of yours is passable. Don't believe me? Look at yourself in the bronze mirror, your crying is quite amusing. Like a bitch. Wagging your tail for mercy. How pathetic. Those demonic whispers echoing through the midnight hours once felt like a dagger, slicing away at my self-respect bit by bit. Now, they shatter Sierronce's tenderness into pieces. That familiar wave of nausea surged straight up my nostrils. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The next second, I shoved Sierronsa's body aside, clutched my mouth, and bolted out the door. I don't know how long I vomited, but finally, my chest felt clear. Returning to the room, I noticed Sierronsa had been holding a water cup, watching my retreating back the entire time. I took it and drank it in one gulp. Only then did I realize the colossal mistake I'd just made. Kneeling guiltily at Sierronsa's feet, I began my apology. I deeply regret dampening the general's spirits. My breach of etiquette is unforgivable. I humbly beg the general to overlook this petty offense and spare me this once. I shall now refresh myself. If the general does not mind, we may continue. I began unbuttoning my own shirt. My movements hurried and rough. Sierronsa was mostly sober by now. He frowned at me, grabbing my arm abruptly. Wan Chui, ever since I first met you, it seems you're always kneeling. Earlier, you hid behind the door eavesdropping for ages, yet never stepped out. And though you clearly dislike my kisses, you still try to please me like this. All of this is probably just because of propriety, right? I froze in place. All my little thoughts, in this moment, had nowhere to hide. Following the rules isn't about being so rigidly law-abiding. You really are fond of restraining your own nature, aren't you? No sooner had the words left his mouth than Sierronsa mimicked my actions, lifting his robe and kneeling down on the floor with a flourish. Hey, what are you doing? I panicked, leaping to my feet and frantically pulling him up. How could I possibly let Sierronsa kneel before me? But Sierronsa had trained in martial arts for years. He wasn't someone I could simply yank upright. I'm not one for beating around the bush. I prefer to speak and act directly. He pressed my hands down. Why not make things clear tonight? It would be better for both of us. Though our betrothal was decreed by His Majesty, I find you quite to my liking. I do not oppose this union. As for you, if your heart belongs to another and you truly refuse this match, I will find an opportunity to petition His Majesty for its dissolution. His words were refreshingly candid. Even his admission of interest spoken with such unadorned clarity. If you are willing, do not mind my military background or my sometimes rash ways. We have a long future ahead. Why not give it time and see how things develop? Sierronsa lifted his head, his eyes fixed earnestly on me. Wan Chui, will you spend your life with me? His gaze was clear, holding stars I had never seen before. It carried an inexplicable sense of reassurance. Before I could think, my mouth had already answered, I will. He seemed like someone I could trust. Sierronsa smiled, the starlight in his eyes growing brighter. He said aloud, also, the Xia household isn't bound by many rules. This place will be your home from now on. So, I hope you can feel at ease. I'll protect you from anything. No more kneeling. If you can't break the habit, then every time you kneel before me, I'll kneel before you in return. His crimson wedding robes were dusted with earth, looking as disheveled as I felt. Whether confined to my maiden's quarters or after marrying into the Eastern Palace in my past life, I'd long grown accustomed to living with constant caution. As a child, disobedience meant hunger and beatings from father. Later, disobedience meant displeasing Zhao Jingqian. His displeasure was the beginning of my suffering. He suddenly drew close. His voice low, "Did you hear me?" His warm breath tickled my ear. It felt slightly itchy, and I shrank my neck, nodding repeatedly. Right. Sierronsa seemed to recall something, leaning closer with a smile. If I can't resist kissing you again next time, don't be angry with me. Later, I came to understand that Sierronsa hadn't deceived me. The entire Xia household truly didn't resemble the aristocratic clan I remembered. I finally understood why Sierronsa possessed such a pure and straightforward nature, because everyone in the Sia household was like that. Spontaneous and endearing. They did as their hearts desired. Ever since I first served tea to the old madam, she took a great liking to me. She praised my appearance, my obedience, and my docility, always pulling me aside for chats. She also mentioned that she had consulted a master several times about Sierronsa's marital prospects. Each time, the master declared Sierronsa had no marital fate thread. He suggested perhaps the destined one hadn't yet appeared in this world, that we must wait for the right moment. Now, this destined one, have arrived. Only then did the old lady feel at ease, grinning so widely her mouth couldn't close. Thank heavens! Finally someone to rein in that wild monkey Ronsa. Overhearing this, Sierronsa looked utterly aggrieved. Grandma, I'm the Marquis of Nizhou in Huanan. I'm no wild monkey. How could you say such things in front of Chui? Couldn't you have said something nice about your grandson? The old lady immediately understood, took my hand, and spoke earnestly. All right. All right. Then let's talk about something impressive. That brat first time he practiced swordplay, he accidentally sliced through his father's sash, right in front of the entire Huanan naval fleet. His dad's undergarments fell down, exposing his snow-white plump buttocks. It nearly killed me with embarrassment. Sierronsa. Most amusing of all, though Lady Xia was well past 50. She still rose with the cockcrow every morning for her punctual exercises. I often stumbled upon them practicing together in the courtyard at the crack of dawn. Madame Xia wields her long spear. Sierronsa practices his sword. Both grandmother and grandson move with agile grace. As swift as a startled crane. As powerful as a dragon. I've heard that in her youth, Madame Xia was a formidable female general of great prestige. Now, one can still glimpse the glory of her past. My personal maid, Xiao Huan, murmured in admiration. Madam, you may not know this. The Xia family now had only the matriarch and the young General Xia, their sole surviving heir. The others had all perished on the battlefield. Generation after generation, the Xias had always been couples who grew old together, never taking concubines. Thus, their line was already thin. After so many years of war, it had grown even more desolate. They were the finest masters I had ever known, yet also the most tragic. Alas! These words jolted me awake once more. My smile froze, a shadow settling over my heart. The scene before me was undeniably beautiful. Yet, a month from now, no, less than a month remains. Not only will Sierronsa lose his life, but the old matriarch, unable to bear the blow, will turn white overnight, withered and emaciated. The Xia family will collapse in an instant. Therefore, Sierronsa must remain safe. Only if he lived well could that chain of tragedies be averted. I had to do something for him. 7 days after the wedding, Sierronsa and I were to return to the palace as protocol dictated, to report back to His Majesty. As we walked, I was suddenly bumped by a palace attendant. Sierronsa shielded me, glancing left and right, looking extremely tense. I couldn't help but laugh at him. Sierronsa. He merely bumped into me, not stabbed me. No need to be so tense. He composed himself, raising an eyebrow in reply. Not under my watch. Not acceptable. If anyone dares harm you. His words trailed off, a hint of amusement playing on his lips. Sierronsa raised his hand, palm slightly open, tracing a sharp arc across his throat. Then so be it. He tilted his head, his eyes reflecting the bright spring light. I knew he was trying to reassure me. All right. I nodded firmly. When he wasn't looking, I secretly unfolded the note hidden in my hand. This was slipped into my robe by the palace attendant who had bumped into me earlier. It seemed she had collided with me intentionally to deliver this message. 1 month from now, your husband will face mortal peril. To save him, come alone to the Eastern Palace to see me. Those final words struck my heart like a heavy blow. My blood seemed to freeze in my veins. That loathsome face flashed through my mind. I could even imagine him, after writing this note, running his fingers over the dried ink with a sickening smile. I walked slowly toward the East Palace, each step trembling with fear, until that familiar purple-robed figure reappeared in my sight. Zhao Jingqian turned around, his eyes gleaming with excitement, his gaze upon me intense. You truly came? You possess the memories from before, correct? It was no dream. I lowered my head, avoiding the heat in his eyes. Your Highness, I don't understand what you're saying. Zhao Jingqian snorted coldly. Wan Chui, stop pretending. That day was clearly our first meeting. Yet you were filled with fear and dread toward me. Today, upon seeing this note, you believed it without question and rushed here immediately. That day, you deliberately dragged Xie into the water. Wasn't that to use him to hide from me? And today, you came because you knew Xie would die in a month. Didn't you? Zhao Jingqian suddenly pulled me into his embrace, his eyes fixed on mine as he smiled darkly. He began to recall the past. Reaching out, he gently touched my eyes. These eyes are truly exquisite. No wonder, even after living another life, I still dream of you constantly. A wave of nausea instantly washed over me, sending shivers down my spine. I clutched his wrist tightly, yet couldn't push him away. Zhao Jingqian tightened his grip, pinching my jaw until it turned red and swollen. But, Wan Chui, do you know? This time, Father Emperor approved your marriage to Xie, yet rejected my petition to wed Gu Qingluo. Tell me, why is that? Zhao Jingqian loved Gu Qingluo most of all. Gu Qingluo was the legitimate daughter of Minister Gu, his only child. From childhood, she was the apple of his eye, showered with affection. Therefore, even the most exalted honors in the realm would be fitting for her. She would never share her husband with another woman, demanding only one man for her entire life. Gu Qingluo declared that if Zhao Jingqian couldn't grant her these terms, their betrothal could be annulled at any moment. He had finally won her over, only to have their engagement shattered by Gu Qingluo after I, through a twist of fate, became his secondary consort. After that, Gu Qingluo married the newly crowned top scholar. But later, I accidentally caught them kissing. They spotted me. I remember Gu Qingluo turning pale with shock, blaming Zhao Jingqian tearfully. She said it was all his fault, since he broke his promise first. He shouldn't have come back to tempt her. Now everything was ruined. Her tears fell like pear blossoms in the rain. She probably felt her life was being destroyed by my hands. I knelt beside her, begging for mercy. My forehead bloodied from repeated blows. Yet Zhao Jingqian, seeking to reassure her, pierced my eye with a sword. Wan Chui, he declared, since you persist in defying propriety, I shall discipline you myself. Zhao Jingqian was not merely a beast, he was a heartless madman. After losing my eyes, I sought only death. When Zhao Jingqian noticed my contemplative movements, he locked me in a dark chamber, severed my tendons, and severed me from the outside world entirely. Each time he returned from Gu Qingluo's presence unsatisfied, he would vent his frustration on me tenfold in the Eastern Palace's dungeon. But how ironic! Having lived this life again, I was no longer the obstacle between them. He successfully penned his marriage petition, only to be rejected by the emperor. Zhao Jingqian and Gu Qingluo were never meant to be a couple. Because this is your retribution. Since he had already seen through me, I saw no point in pretending anymore. Overcome with grief and indignation, I spoke slowly and deliberately. We had never even met before. Why would I covet the position of secondary consort? Resorting to poisoning? Had you personally investigated, you might have uncovered the true mastermind long ago. Instead of blaming me, Zhao Jingqian sneered, why would I investigate? I was the one who administered the poison. Only, I intended it for Gu Qingluo. My eyes widened in disbelief. So this was the truth. Zhao Jingqian had known all along that I had never plotted against him. As the Gu family's legitimate daughter, aside from her stubborn and willful temper, she possessed every quality befitting an empress. Was it not natural for me to love her? Zhao Jingqian stroked the jade pendant at his waist. Speaking calmly, those imperial princes are beginning to make their mark in the court, threatening my position. As long as her heart remains with me, the power behind her will one day serve my purposes. Alas, every time we quarrel, she threatens to break off the engagement. What a nuisance. You see, all of you women, regardless of rank or status, are fundamentally the same. Only through taming will they truly submit. All of us women? I murmured, repeating Zhao Jingqian's words. A chill running through my body. He truly is scum. I once believed he held at least a shred of genuine affection for Gu Qingluo. But now I see, if he truly loved her, how could he disregard her honor and do such things to her? Zhao Jingqian. Why? I fought to steady the tremor in my voice. The angrier I appear, the less suspicion falls upon me. Did I blind your eyes? Merely indulged Gu Qingluo's whim. As for severing your tendons and imprisoning you, no particular reason. I tortured you simply because I wanted to. Zhao Jingqiao's lips curled silently. Do you really need a reason? Perhaps this is the nature of evil, it never requires justification. Though the wounds from before had vanished, hearing those words still made them itch and ache. I steadied my nerves. What you wrote on that note earlier, is it true? How did Xie Rongzi die? Is there any way to save him? Zhao Jingqian spread his hands. A helpless expression on his face. It was merely a test for you. Even if I knew, why should I tell you? But you seem to care more about Xie Rongzi than I imagined. You haven't genuinely fallen for that brute. Have you? He snorted coldly. Hearing him speak of Xie Rongzi thus, I took a step back and retorted sarcastically. You're moody, violent, and cunning. Everyone in the Eastern Palace fears you, whispering behind your back that you're a mad dog. But Xie Rongzi is different. He surpasses you in every way. So what if I like him? Besides, if you could think to exploit Gu Qingluo, His Majesty surely could too. Probably to keep you in check. I chuckled lightly. No wonder you resort to bluffing and relying on women to prop up your position. Useless. Talentless. Unprincipled. Incompetent, you can't even grasp such simple logic. Truly a worthless fool incapable of weighing consequences. Zhao Jingqian was enraged by my words. He lunged forward, grabbing my collar. You've grown bold enough to speak to me this way now. I summoned you today to make one thing clear, what I cannot have. Neither shall you. He couldn't have Gu Qingluo, so he wouldn't let me be happier than him. I should have seen this coming. I violently wrenched free from Zhao Jingqian's grip and slapped him across the face. But shamelessly, he leaned in to grab my hand. Wan Chui, you'd better make a huge scene, call everyone over. Let them see you. The general's concubine, disheveled in my arms. Why not come to me every night? Just like before? Once Xie Rongzi is dead, I'll have my own glorious achievements. Taking you as a concubine wouldn't be so bad. These sickening words made my scalp crawl. I felt nauseous, my eyes stinging and swelling. I fought back the tears with all my might. If I cried, that would truly give Zhao Jingqian the satisfaction he craved. Cry. Why aren't you crying? Seeing my reaction, Zhao Jingqian's expression darkened, clearly displeased. Suddenly, a cold, icy glint appeared at Zhao Jingqian's throat. His body stiffened, and he released his grip. I saw Xie standing behind Zhao Jingqian. His long eyebrows were slightly furrowed, his expression grim and deadly. He opened his mouth and said coldly, "She's timid. You've frightened her. Chu Yi, come here." He extended his hand toward me. In that moment, everything around us seemed to fade into darkness. Only Xie Rongsa's face, with its sword-like brows and piercing eyes, appeared like a deity descending to rescue me from the flames. The disheveled crown prince slowly turned, a vivid streak of blood gushing from his neck. Xie Rongsa did not lower his sword. "Zhao Jingqian, a woman's anguished cry is no badge of your glorious achievements." Xie Rongsa enunciated each word deliberately, fearing he might truly strike Zhao Jingqian. I hurriedly tugged at his sleeve. "Xie Rongsa, don't act rashly." He turned, squeezing my hand reassuringly. "I know my limits." Yet the next instant, a flash of cold steel sliced through Zhao Jingqian's sleeve, severing half of it. Though he dodged in time, Zhao Jingqian's hand was still grazed by the blade. Staring blankly at the severed sleeve and his own bleeding hand, Zhao Jingqian remained frozen, not even uttering a cry of pain. "I remember you were always like a timid little dog growing up. Whenever the princes fought, you'd cry instead of fighting back. Why are you still so weak now?" Xie Rongsa sneered loudly. His jade-like face bore utter disdain. "Besides, you couldn't beat me when we were children. Now, if I were to kill you with a single sword thrust, it would only be fitting." "Xie Rongsa, I am the crown prince. How dare you?" Zhao Jingqian's eyes bulged with fury. Xie Rongsa wiped the blood from his blade with disgust, his smile fading. "Crown prince? If his majesty learned of your actions, do you think the throne would still be yours? Don't threaten me with imperial power or wealth. I neither believe nor care for it. Today it's your sleeve. Tomorrow it'll be your head." "Zhao Jingqian." Xie Rongsa chuckled softly. On the way back, he barely spoke. My heart raced with anxiety, wondering if Xie Rongsa was angry. I was agonizing over how to broach the subject. Unexpectedly, just as we reached the palace gates, he suddenly spoke first. "Chu Yi, that night, I was actually walking from your direction, coming from where you and Zhao Jingqian were. Later, I saw you two seem to be in a dispute. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease, so I turned back." "So it wasn't a coincidence that day?" I froze. Then I heard Xie Rongsa ask earnestly, "Is he the one you've always feared?" My voice cracked as I replied, "Yes. The crown prince and I do share some past history. He despises me, hence his constant harassment. But he has no romantic interest in me. You can rest assured, General." Xie Rongsa seemed to think of something, his face twisting with disdain as his tone turned bitter. "You probably don't realize that sometimes deliberately making things difficult isn't necessarily dislike, it could be affection. That man has been twisted since childhood. Who can say for sure? But you needn't fear Zhao Jingqian. From now on, every time we see him, we'll beat him up. Today." I could only bring myself to slap him because I was pushed to my absolute limit, mustering every ounce of courage. Imagine if we beat Zhao Jingqian every time we see him. I shrank my neck. I wouldn't dare. Xie Rongsa suddenly scooped me up. I gasped and wrapped my arms around his neck. The next second, my body was lifted into the air as he placed me on the horse. I'd never ridden a horse before. I dared only cling tightly, not moving an inch. But this sensation of my feet dangling in the air was novel. Before long, the horse proved remarkably docile. My courage grew, and I tentatively straightened up. Xie stood beside the horse, reins firmly in hand, glancing back at me. Chuyi, care to give it a try? His crimson robes blazed like fire, his high-pinned hair gently swaying in the breeze. Xie eyes shone as brightly as flames. With me here, you won't fall. If you ever want to learn horseback riding or practice swordsmanship, I'll teach you. I'll also take you back to Huanan City to see its mountains and rivers, and show you the rainbow boat where I gained fame in battle. Xie walked with light steps, his spirit radiant. All right. I found myself smiling involuntarily, listening intently to every word he murmured. So this was what it felt like to be cherished and protected. Even when storms rage and umbrellas tilt, there will always be someone standing behind you. Just turn around, and you can grow old together. In the days that followed, Xie was very busy. Despite this, he still found time to craft a finely shaped short sword for me. After receiving this gift, I examined it for a long time. Only then did I notice a delicate sword tassel hanging from it. Though slightly damaged, it showed the care its former owner had given it. The patterns on the scabbard matched mine, they were a pair. Seeing my delight, Xie eyes crinkled as he continued. This tassel once belonged to my mother. After she fell in battle, I kept it close as a memento. Now I give it to you along with this sword, consider it your talisman. Wherever you go, with my sword and this tassel by your side, you'll be safe. In moments of danger, you can use it to defend yourself. If you're afraid, just toss it to me. I'll catch it without fail and rush to your side at once. Don't believe me? Let's try it. My heart filled with joy. I adjusted my stance and tried it his way. Sure enough, he caught every single one. But suddenly, he reminded me of a big, fluffy dog. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you for being so thoughtful. It really works. Unexpectedly, Xie gave a light cough, turned his head away, and his ears flushed crimson. If you really want to thank me, then let me kiss you. Or, tonight, can I sleep back in the bed? I remained silent for a long time. Xie thought I was upset and hurriedly explained. Don't misunderstand. It's just, the tatami is too small, and I'm tall, so it's uncomfortable and makes my back ache. The weather will turn cold soon, and sleeping together keeps us warm. I'm very well behaved when I sleep. Before he could finish, I stepped around to face him, tiptoed up, and closed my eyes. As our warm lips met, I quietly wrapped my arms around Xie waist. Though the kiss was fleeting, when I opened my eyes again, Xie face seemed even redder. He stood there completely dazed, wearing a foolish grin utterly unlike his usual self. The invincible young General Xie had one flaw: he turned into a fool whenever kissed. How could this be? Under his scorching gaze, my own face flushed. I murmured softly, "Whatever you say." The next second, I heard his voice rise with delight. Really? Xie arched an eyebrow, smiling as he wrapped his arm around me, drowning me in an even more passionate kiss. Adjutant Su's voice suddenly rang out from nearby. Reporting. General, His Majesty has issued an edict requesting your presence. Ah. This. You too. Catching sight of Xie and me, Adjutant Su's voice trailed off. He covered his eyes, clearly unable to bear the sight. Even if the sky falls, you'd better get lost. Old man. You old fool. No sense of propriety. Xie hadn't kissed me enough and pulled me closer into his embrace. The corners of his eyes tinged with a faint flush. His tone sharp. Why don't you go handle your duties first? I pointed at his face, kindly reminding him. Because you're bleeding from your nose. Huan Nanqing had indeed encountered trouble. The new ruler of neighboring Yedu, long coveting the strategic stronghold of Huan Nanqing, took advantage of Xie Rongsa's stay in the capital. He dispatched several personal guards disguised as refugees to sneak across the Huan River. His Majesty issued 3 consecutive edicts, ordering Xie Rongsa to return and defend Huan Nanqing. Surprisingly, Zhao Jingqian was also included in the entourage list. Adjutant Su mentioned that the crown prince had personally requested to secretly accompany them into battle. Before the court ministers, Zhao Jingqian stated his intentions: first, to temper himself and alleviate the emperor's burdens; second, to assist Xie Rongsa, given the recent escalating friction between Huan Nan and the neighboring state. Upon hearing this news, Xie Rongsa frowned deeply. That stupid dog can't fight. His presence will only slow me down. When the battle begins, I'll have to watch his back. What a nuisance. Ever since hearing this news, I too have been restless. The 1-month deadline draws ever closer. What exactly is he up to? However, since arriving in Huannan City, Zhao Jingqian has disguised himself as an ordinary military officer, accompanying Xie Rongsa. Xie Rongsa couldn't persuade me otherwise, so he had no choice but to bring me along. Though Zhao Jingqian showed no signs of trouble, I kept a constant watch on him. Even Xie Rongsa's food, clothing, lodging, and daily necessities were personally tested by my men before being delivered to him, only after confirmation that they posed no threat. Ruan Chuyi, I know you hate me, but I must prioritize the greater good. Is it really necessary to guard against me like this? The great battle was imminent. Xie Rongsa's warship glowed with lights. They hadn't slept for several nights, awaiting this decisive battle. Zhao Jingqian, clad in armor, collided with me on the deck. I called out to him. I asked, "Did Xie Rongsa die in this battle before?" Zhao Jingqian regarded me with leisurely composure. Yes. So what? My suspicions were confirmed. My heart sank. I advise you to abandon futile efforts. Start planning your next move. Zhao Jingqian seemed to read my mind, his words dripping with sarcasm. I will strive to change everything. Even if I cannot, I will stand with Xie Rongsa through thick and thin, sharing life and death. It was precisely this resolve that drew me closer to that man of unwavering sincerity. It was Xie Rongsa holding the torch that let me see the light. From that moment on, he became my only light. It truly was a love as deep as that of Mandarin ducks. He moved his lips. Ruan Chui. What if it were me who died? Unbelievably, Zhao Jingqian actually asked such a question. If such a blessing were possible, I would wish for you to die by my hand. Then I'd thank the heavens for their justice, taking this wicked beast from the world. Zhao Jingqian smiled too. They say a day as husband and wife brings 100 days of affection. Yet you treat Xie Rongsa that way, while showing me no mercy. You should return now. The man on the ship's ladder is glaring at me as if he'll bore right through me. Turning around, I saw Xie Rongsa approaching, his anger palpable. His stance seemed poised to cleave Zhao Jingqian in two right then and there. I lifted a smile, preparing to walk towards Xie Rongsa. But the man behind me suddenly spoke in a calm tone. In our past life, after Xie Rongsa died, only half a palm remained. Do you know why? Before I could react, a tremendous explosion erupted from the water beside us, like thunder rolling overhead. I immediately covered my ears. Chuyi, watch out! I saw Xie Rongsa leap toward me. The fire on the water ignited like a dragon, blazing instantly. The Yedu army has fallen for the trap. Stay put on the tower ship and wait for me. Don't go anywhere. Xie Rongsa tucked my stray hair behind my ear, his eyes filled with reluctance and longing. Come back safely. I gripped his cold armor tightly. I will. Xie Rongsa handed me the small sword. Hold it tight. It might save you in a pinch. If I don't return, you must. Sierronsa paused. Don't say it. I covered his mouth. Sierronsa smiled at me, kissing the palm of my hand. All right. I will come back. With those words, he turned and walked out without a moment's delay. After he left, I dragged out the armor I'd secretly had the ship's craftsman forge earlier and slipped it on. Then I slipped onto the deck. The entire fleet was now in battle readiness, preparing to face the Edu forces. I saw Sierronsa standing at the bow, his hand resting lightly on his sword as he smiled. This youth here is the moon rising over the sea. On the Huan River, the one who could hold me, had yet to be born. As the ship-to-ship ladders were gradually secured, his expression grew stern. He drew his sword. All who raise arms against Huanjiang today shall be slain. The surrounding horns blared, their resonance seeming to reverberate within our chests. Nearly every man let out a low growl, charging together toward the target Sierronsa had commanded. The roar mingled with the river's surge and the unceasing crack of cannon fire. After an unknown span of time, someone suddenly shouted, "Victory!" Only then did I relax. Everything had proceeded smoothly. Just as I was about to step out, the Crown Prince is present. Who dares not kneel? That usually earnest deputy officer Su suddenly turned cold. Raising a token in his hand, he abruptly revealed Zhao Jingqian's true identity. Zhao Jingqian, seemingly anticipating this moment, stood calmly beside Sierronsa. The ship instantly split into two factions. The Huanan army, which had just been united against the enemy, now saw half its men turning their blades against their comrades behind them. Suddenly, I understood the profound meaning behind Zhao Jingqian's words. Perhaps Sierronsa had never truly been defeated, nor had he perished in Huanan. Yes, he was a man of such profound loyalty and honor. How could he ever have imagined that one day he would be stabbed in the back by his most trusted subordinate? Come out, Ruan Chui. Zhao Jingqian turned his gaze to me. Sierronsa, restrained by Zhao Jingqian's men, was forced to kneel at the bow of the ship. His sword kicked aside. My heart shattered into pieces as I rushed forward. Zhao Jingqian stood aloof, looking down his nose at me as I blocked his path before Sierronsa. Sierronsa. A similar scene played out long ago. Back then, it was much the same, except you clutched a perfume pouch in your hand. I asked you then, who gave you this sachet? Why is it so precious you cling to it even in death? Only after I severed half your hand did I see the embroidered characters, Chui. Sachet? Chui? I didn't understand what Zhao Jingqian was talking about. Sierronsa stood with his back straight, head held high, as if letting out a faint sigh. Su Fei, I truly believed in you. Though I always complained about you, I genuinely treated you like a brother. Adjutant Su turned his face away, his eyes seemingly reddened, saying nothing. Zhao Jingqian, if I were to die here now, the credit for this victory would naturally go to you. You would rightfully secure your position as Crown Prince. Correct? Sierronsa spoke slowly. Zhao Jingqian burst into laughter. Very clever, but a little too late. He suddenly leaned in, pinching my chin. Ruan Chui, I told you, you can't change anything, because I'm the one pulling all the strings. At this moment, Sierronsa has sunk to this level. Do you still wish to share life and death? Advance and retreat with him? I was forced to lift my head. My hand slipped discreetly toward my waist. Yet my face turned toward Zhao Jingqian with an exceptionally bright smile. I relish it. And you? You will always be alone. Even if you descend to the underworld, you're destined to be a lonely, wandering ghost. Life after life, consumed by utter solitude, doomed to a miserable end. As I spoke these final words, I fixed him with a gaze seething with searing hatred. You. Zhao Jingqian was nearly driven mad by my defiance. His rage boiled over as he seized my throat with a deathly grip. Now, with lightning speed, I drew my dagger and hurled it toward Xie. His movement was as swift as lightning. In a single stride, he was upon Zhao Jingqian. His blade pressed against the man's throat. The situation flipped in an instant. A flare shot up from somewhere on the ship, lighting up the sky above with a piercing crack. In the distance, several enormous warships were approaching. Zhao Jingqian froze. Third Brother's ships? You've joined forces? Su Fei. You didn't know? Faced with Zhao Jingqian's fury, Su Fei was utterly helpless. Xie slowly shifted his sword toward Zhao Jingqian's chest. Zhao Jingqian. It's almost over. Yet Zhao Jingqian's contorted face, fixed on the third prince's warships drawing ever closer in the distance, suddenly grew calm. Over? Says who? Xie. You don't get to decide. I have a bad feeling about this. No. The desperate scream came too late. I watched helplessly as this madman used my sword to drive it deep into his own abdomen. Xie behind him staggered. The blade instantly pierced through both of them. Blood gushed from Zhao Jingqian's lips in great mouthfuls, while blossoms of crimson spread across his body, a grotesque and eerie sight. Ruan Chui. I told you. What I couldn't have. Neither can you. He stumbled forward. Just as Zhao Jingqian nearly grabbed my sleeve, Xie desperately yanked the sword free and slashed at Zhao Jingqian's throat, until both their bodies plunged into the river. In the 5th year of Shangqing, the Huannan naval forces achieved a great victory. General Xia, the sole commander of the Southern Army, and Prince Qian vanished without a trace. Since then, a woman has appeared night after night by the banks of the Huan River, weeping tears of blood as she mourns her lost husband. From that day forward, Huannan City knew no more warfare. Peace reigned. The seas were calm, and the years were filled with harmony and bountiful harvests. What utter nonsense is this? Xiao Huan angrily tossed the historical account aside, torn between laughter and tears. Madam, they've written both you and the general dead. It's utterly absurd. Ruan Chui, her face veiled, sat upon the bridal bed and soothed softly. Don't be angry. We agreed to just pick up a few books to read for amusement. It's no big deal. Xiao Huan nodded. You're right, madam. The important thing is when our general returns to consummate our marriage. Why not read this instead? The cold-faced general's fierce pampering. Fierce pampering? Ruan Chui seemed somewhat surprised. Xiao Huan chuckled. I'm curious too. Why don't I read it aloud? Let's hear together just how fiercely he pampers. After the Battle of Huannan, the third prince, now Crown Prince Zhao Jingqian, sent men to scour the Huan River for 3 days and nights. They finally found Xie in a small fishing village. He was covered in blood, but the fishermen recognized him and mobilized the entire village to save him, preserving his life. After a long convalescence, he returned to the capital. Xie first act was to petition the emperor for a special favor. He demanded Ruan Chui as his sole wife. Thus, a 10-mile procession of red wedding finery unfolded, while the capital's citizens lined the streets in celebration. Lady Xia, overcome with emotion, wept as she personally crafted Ruan Chui's wedding gown. She also prepared a residence, ensuring every detail of dignity and splendor for her grand nuptials. Seated atop a majestic steed, Xie finally wed the maiden of his heart. Tonight marked Ruan Chui's return to the Xie residence as the rightful principal wife, the night of her wedding chamber and the lighting of the bridal candles. Wow! The general has arrived. Xiao Huan hurriedly withdrew. This time, Xie moved with practiced ease and efficiency. But he hadn't anticipated that the moment he lifted the veil, he'd meet a pair of furious eyes. Xie, you big liar! The young general panicked. Back on the boat, I promised I'd come back, and I did. My dearest. How could I ever deceive you? What exactly was that sachet Zhao Jingqian mentioned that day? Well. Xie Rongzi scratched his head, sitting down beside Ruan Chui with a sheepish look. Let me tell you the story. Back then, Xie Rongzi wasn't yet known as the young General Xia. He was just a troublemaker. The most feared hothead in Huanan City. He was the bully who snatched girls from their homes. The thief who robbed penniless scholars. And so on. Pretty much every weakling had experienced young Master Xia's kindness. Of course. He'd slip up sometimes, like accidentally knocking over every stall on the street. This nearly drove old General Xia mad. He kept yelling about sending him back to the capital. Huan Nanqing had a tradition. Every young man, regardless of family background, had to compete in the boat festival races during his coming-of-age ceremony at 20. Only the winner earned the right to claim the prize. That year, Xie Rongzi sailed a crimson flatboat, clad entirely in red, and claimed first place. The youth shone like neon, stunning all who witnessed it. So much so that when people later spoke of Xie Rongzi's heroic form upon the river, they would always respectfully address him as the Marquis of the Rainbow Boat. Just as the crowd gathered to praise him, someone's hooded cap drifted down from the bridge, landing squarely on Xie Rongzi's face. It was utterly humiliating, crushing his pride. Whose hat is this? Don't let me catch you! Xie Rongzi roared, his voice echoing skyward. In 2 strides, he charged across the lawn bridge, blocking Ruan Chui's path. A girl, her watery eyes, filled with bewilderment, met his gaze. Xie Rongzi suddenly felt his face burn fiercely, his speech stumbling awkwardly. Ever since then, he seemed to have developed this quirk. You, that thing, this, yours. Unable to articulate the fluttering sensation in his heart, he simply flung the hooded cap toward her. The girl was exceptionally lovely. Folks in Huanan City always said the most beautiful girls must be like water. Mountains gather like eyebrow peaks, water flows like the gaze of her eyes. That girl, in her white robe and dark brows, was all delicate charm. Her eyes and brows, so full and bright, were more beautiful than any landscape in Huanan City. What are you looking at? He hadn't meant to sound so harsh. He'd only wanted to ask her name, and which family she belonged to. Perhaps from years of roughing it in the barracks. He hadn't controlled his tone, his voice still coming out too loud. Xie Rongzi had miscalculated. The girl fled in fright, as if she'd seen a ghost. In her panic, a small pouch rolled to his feet. Chui? Xie Rongzi picked up the pouch, committing the name to memory. Later, he searched every corner of Huanan City, nearly turning the earth upside down. There was Wang Chui, Lu Chui, Li Chui. Yet none of their eyes resembled that pair that had captivated him. Xie Rongzi kept that sachet for many years, until his father died in battle. And Xie Rongzi seemed to grow up overnight. He took over his father's duties and, for the sake of the common people, had no choice but to enter the capital. He thought he would never see her again. Yet upon returning to the capital, he discovered that the quiet, obedient second young miss of the Ruan family was named Ruan Chui. You really remembered it all these years? After hearing this long tale, Ruan Chui felt like both laughing and crying. The name was merely something her father had casually chosen. She was born on the first day of the first lunar month, so she hastily received that name. Yet to Xie Rongzi, it had become an unforgettable memory over the years. Meeting him was her greatest fortune in 3 lifetimes. Of course it was. Xie Rongzi's eyes sparkled with delight. But how did you suddenly join forces with the third prince? Ruan Chui hesitated. You claimed to read palms, then declared I'd fall for you at first sight and be utterly captivated upon meeting again. With such accuracy, How could I not believe you? Slightly tipsy. He narrowed his eyes and pinched her cheek hard. My wife is just too soft. As for Lieutenant Su, after that incident, I thoroughly investigated everyone around me and discovered he'd harbored treasonous thoughts long ago. So, I deliberately kept my alliance with the third prince from him. It was his final chance. He simply didn't seize it. Young General Xia is merely an obedient husband who listens to his wife. What evil intentions could he possibly have? It was your words that reminded me, extra precautions never hurt. But that bastard Zhao Jingqian. Truly despicable. That sword stab hurt so badly. Wah. My dear. It hurts so much. Xie Rongzi suddenly curled up on the bed, whimpering pitifully. Yuan Chu frowned. Hurt again? She bent down to examine his wound. Xie Rongzi chuckled softly, seizing the moment to hold her hand. He quietly extinguished the wedding candles and drew back the bed curtains. Yet no one knew that in his previous life, it was precisely such an opportunity that had made Xie Rongzi remember for so many years. After the battle at Huannan, he had intended to win first, then return to petition the emperor for this favor, to marry the second young lady of the Ruan family. The night before that battle, he'd been so agitated he couldn't sleep, pacing the bow of the ship for half the night. When Deputy Officer Su came out to relieve himself, he was startled by the sight. There stood Xie Rongzi again, like a man possessed, stroking his sachets with a foolish grin. It wasn't the wind stirring, nor the banner fluttering. It was his heart stirring. Alas! Xie Rongzi never returned, nor did he know that the girl he longed for, Chu Yi, had long since suffered humiliation. In that lifetime, Xie Rongzi died in the icy waters of the Huan River. A sword pierced his heart, then sliced off half his palm, the blade's edge starkly revealing bone. Closing his eyes forever, Xie Rongzi still clutched that incense pouch tightly, murmuring the name of the delicate maiden he never married. He had someone he longed for, yet she was separated by distant lands. And Ruan Chui, that same winter month, died alone of illness in the depths of the despairing palace. In her final breath, she spat a mouthful of blood onto the yellowed canopy cap beside her bed. Neither met a peaceful end. Until death, they never met again. Outside the window, a full moon hung high. On this enchanting night, the silk canopy dimmed with lamplight. The knight's embrace entwined with love, swaying together. This time, both he and the one she longed for were by her side. The end.